Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. Today my guest is someone very special from Australia all the way. Somebody from future, Peter Strohkorb. Peter, time difference. You already have a Friday there and we have a Thursday evening. So it's like a time traveling. You were just talking about it.
That's right, Gurmeet. It's good morning from me and good afternoon from you. And it's already Friday here and Thursday for you. So I sometimes joke, I speak to people from the future and I offer them tomorrow's lotto numbers so they can.
Very interesting. Hey, the topic, your expertise in a sales and in a marketing in that area. I think all business leaders are always struggle with it. There's never, you can never master these two areas. There's always a shortage of skills. So I'm looking forward to a discussion, looking forward to learning from you. And I think the business leaders who are watching, they're definitely gonna, draw tons of value out of our discussion. So thank you so much for time and talking to us.
It's a pleasure being here, Gurmeet, and thank you for having me. And I hope I can live up to the expectations that you've just set.
No, I think pretty much. So let's talk about, what is that, from your books, the marketing. So what is the smarting and if you can just walk us through our audience, what does it mean to you?
Okay, so the book is called Smarketing, Sell Smarter, Not Harder. And smarketing is a homologation of marketing and sales. And basically the idea is that if as salespeople or as a sales business, we're focusing on what we're selling and how we want to sell it and how we measure ourselves in terms of the progress, then we're not focusing on the customer, we're focusing on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we create also silos within the organization where marketing does their own thing and sales does their own thing and the twain shall never meet. And we know from decades of practice that this doesn't work. This is not leading to a good result. So what the book is about and what my whole sales philosophy is about is having a buyer-focused sales process. So aligning all your resources internally onto the buyer, looking outside the organization, not inward facing, and focusing on our buyers and how we can help them to buy from us as opposed to forcing them or manipulating them into a transaction.
Okay, very interesting. But that buyer focus changes by the time, right? It could be different buyer focus before COVID. What we gone through a couple of years of distraction, it could be different. So the reason to buy, or does that focus change? And if it does change, how do you align that again with the changing market or changing all that focus again to your process?
Okay, so I want to disagree with you.
Okay, beautiful.
Sorry.
Okay.
And that is, it doesn't matter what environment you're in, whether you're in a pre-COVID environment, in a post-COVID environment, in a during COVID environment.
Okay.
Focusing on your buyer is always the right way to go, right? Because, and I'll tell you why. Because before the pandemic, people were used to being spammed on email, being cold called by junior BDRs who actually have no idea whether they're even in the market for the thing that they're selling.
Okay.
And for being reached out on LinkedIn and pitch slapped. Pitch slapped is when you connect with somebody and hit you up with a pitch right away, right?
I got you.
We sort of, as buyers, we sort of tolerated that. It was kind of the norm, and we kind of went, okay, well, look, that's what they do, and we didn't like it, but we kind of tolerated it. Now, with everything else that's gone on in the world and still going on in the world now, we've lost that tolerance. So we don't like to be hit up with a cold call, with a sales pitch, with a spam email any longer. And a lot of the buyers have turned off those approaches. And what they do now is they say, no matter what you're selling, I'm not interested. Even though what you're offering could be super interesting to me, but it's just a knee-jerk reaction. I'm not interested, go away. And what does that do for the sellers is that they try even harder to reach you now. Right? So I think we have to stop this madness, because let's not keep doing the same thing that we already know is not working, and let's not just do more of the same thing and expect a different result.
Yeah.
So the approach is that what I teach my clients is that they need to turn around and they need to look at their business from their client's perspective and say, what do we actually look like to our buyers? How do we not ambush them with a sales pitch? how do we draw them into a business conversation, not even a sales conversation, a business conversation about, what are your challenges and how can you resolve them? And here's a way, by the way, and here's a success story and so on. But to draw them into a business conversation and engage them rather than ambush them with a cold sales pitch. And then help them to go through the sales funnel, so that they will end up buying from you and have a great buying experience in the process. Because if they have a great buying experience, they will not only come back for more, they will also refer new business to you.
I see.
So there's a multitude of benefits to looking at your sales process or your sales funnel from the buyer's perspective, and then being responsive to their needs.
But at one point, you still got to communicate with them, right? So even though you can refine it, you can change your approach, whatever you got to do. But at one point, you still got to communicate with them. Somehow you have to connect with the buyers, right?
Absolutely. And you have to not just connect with them. I make a distinction between reaching out to them, which let's face it, there's any number of apps and technologies out there that you can use to reach out to people, right? And no matter whom you want to reach out to, you can find a way with today's technology, right?
Got you.
But reaching out is not enough. There's probably dozens of people that reach out to you every day hoping to sell you something. Doesn't mean that they're engaging with you. So I make a distinction between engaging and reaching out. So you need to reach out and engage.
I see.
So then your question is, how the hell do you engage without being salesy? And the secret to that is that you don't talk about yourself. So the minute you say we do this and we have that and we're great, I call that we syndrome, by the way. The minute you fall into the trap of we syndrome, people will go, well, what's it got to do with me? Why should I spend time listening to you? So what I teach my clients is to talk about what my clients are experiencing. And so if you start your sentence not with we do this and we have that, but if you start your sentence with our clients experience XYZ, then they might just lean forward and say, Gurmeet, tell me more about that. That sounds really interesting. How can I get that too? How would that apply to my business? And you're having a business conversation and not just a sales pitch.
Got you. No, definitely. At the end of the day, you're trying to solve a problem in their business, right? So you better just focus on their. So business leaders, watching, definitely we all have our business priorities. We got a operationally business going, and we also got a handle on the sales. From your experience, where do we fail mostly, right? So, it's very hard to find a focus on a sales, and where you see the biggest obstacle when somebody's trying to build a sales process, they're trying to build a sales team. Where you think some of the blind spot people miss out, and where do they normally fail?
Okay, so I see 2 or 3 common problems areas. I don't want to say mistakes, but challenges, and that is what to say at the first point of contact. How can I engage somebody into a conversation, as we just talked about, not just reach out to them, right? So what do you say? And I'll elaborate on that in a minute. The second flaw is that we get our most junior people to reach out to the most senior executives, hoping to secure interest, solicit an appointment, or get a meeting. And it just doesn't work, because you can't get somebody fresh out of uni or somebody very junior to engage with somebody very senior. It just doesn't gel,
because they don't know what to say,
And this is why we get into this fallacy of the numbers game, where we go, we just need to call more people. And I always wonder about the success rate of that, because we think 3% success rate is great. But what happens to the 97 other percent that we've disenchanted in the process? And they will never talk to us again. So I think it's there's danger in that. Coming back to the point of how do you engage with somebody, particularly how do you engage with somebody senior? And I say that there are 3 ways of doing that. The first way is that actually, if you're a buyer or if you're a senior executive, then you usually have 1, 2, or 3 objectives at heart. One is You want to perform well, so you get paid.
Yeah.
And you do your job, and
Yeah.
your boss pats you on the back.
Yeah.
You want to not screw up, right, for the same
Okay.
reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to hit your objectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why not refer to one of those three objectives, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so number one, if I can point out a way that you can reach your objectives in a way that you hadn't realized,
Mm-hmm.
you'll want to know about that, right? So you want to
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation about that, and say, like, what do you mean? How does it work? Has it worked for other people? And we're having a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So pointing out an opportunity that you weren't aware of is one
Yeah.
way to engage. The converse is pointing out a risk that you weren't aware of, that you didn't know you were facing.
Why would you fail to achieve those objectives? Yeah.
So, oh my God, you can help me not to screw up.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to me.
Okay.
Yeah. You can help me not make a mistake that will make me look bad to my boss, or that will risk my career.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Both of those are pretty tricky to pull off, because you've got to do your homework on the organization, perhaps even on the individuals. You've got to know about the industry, and you've got to know enough to pull that off credibly,
Mm-hmm.
and to their specific situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it takes homework, and it takes a bit of work, but it's a very effective way if you can pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
The third way is easier and more scalable.
Yeah.
And that is to help them to understand that they have a need for the thing that you're selling. To help them to understand, not to tell them,
Mm-hmm.
but to help them to realize for themselves that they have a need for the thing. And there's a number of ways to do that, and I teach those to my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And clients, by the way, in the US, in the UK, and in Asia Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
So it's universally adaptable.
Yeah, it got to be the same no matter where you are, as long as you're in business.
Even in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and so how do you help them to understand that they have a need for the thing that you're selling, or for the service that you're selling? And that is through a thought leadership piece, through having a point of view, perhaps even a controversial or slightly challenging point of view, because that draws them into the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe letting them do some sort of self-assessment, a test, a checklist, or something where they can actually discover for themselves
Mm-hmm.
that they have this challenge. Because if it's, let's face it, if it's your idea, it's a much better idea than my idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if I help you to think of it yourself, you go, oh, that was my idea, so it must be a good one. Yeah. So psychologically speaking, helping you to understand that you have a need for the thing that I'm selling is a very good way of starting a dialogue and a conversation. And I always talk about creating, at the first point of contact, I talk about creating, not pitching, not selling,
Mm-hmm.
but creating what I call the lean forward moment.
Mm-hmm.
Lean forward moment is when they literally lean forward and say, wow, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah, very interesting. So, but that applies to all C-level, all the directors and managers, staff of the company. How about when you reach down to the president of the company, the guy who owns a business? Completely different motives, right? He doesn't need to, screw up. That everything stops with me, right? He's not worried about any of that stuff. We 3 steps we talk about. He has a totally different, eyes on a different pulse. He's looking at, hey, how do I generate more revenue? How do I scale the company? How do I grow a company? Or how do I, make my payroll more efficient? His drivers are different than employees for working for him, right?
Okay, I'm not sure that's right either.
Okay. All right.
And that's because they still don't want to screw up. They still want to hit their objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And even more so, they probably want to either sell the business one day and retire comfortably, or they want to leave a legacy to their children, to their family. So the pressure on them is actually just as great as the pressure on anybody else. It's just that they're accountable for their own pressure rather than the boss. And by the way, we all have a boss at home. It's called your partner.
Yeah. You still got to answer back, right? Very interesting.
And so I think the same principle can apply. The benefit of talking to the business owner or to the founder is that they can make a very quick decision because they don't have to check in with anybody. They can just say, look, I like the idea, let's do it. Or they go, no, I hate the idea, go get lost, right? And it's a very quick decision. So I love dealing with business owners because you always know where you stand and you're getting a quick response.
Yeah, we do a lot of risk management. We do a lot of that stuff, and that usually doesn't apply to employees, right? Great to deal with the C-level people. It's just great. You build out of connections. You need to get a buy-in from them. A lot of the items when it comes to business risk, the scale of business, a lot of that stuff does not apply. It does apply, but it's not as hard as that somebody's right, signing in front of the check instead of back of the check, right? So it's a totally different ballgame that the person who's trying to grow a business. So. But I hear you that, yeah, definitely, that's where you got to work from, and definitely eventually you go up. So let's talk about the business owners who, they're definitely, we come from the different skill sets. Sales, not our never our top of the line skills. You come from different organizations, engineering companies or construction companies. Sales we never learned sales in a company, and now we are responsible of having a teams of salespeople. So when it comes to building a salespeople or building a sales teams, you got to build a lot more items that you were selling yourself. You got to build a process. You got to build a lot of other items. So where are some of the challenges that comes when you're trying to grow a sales team and you have multiple people reporting to you?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked this question.
Thank you.
I actually wrote an article about this. I think just late last year.
Okay.
And I think the headline was "Stop before you hire your first sales rep." Right? And let's face it, when we're a founder, and you and I, we've been in the same boat.
Okay.
When we're a founder, we all the bucks stop with us, right? So we're the janitor, and we're the salesperson, and we're the finance person,
Yeah.
and we're the marketer and everything. And we built this business up, and it's our baby, and we love it, and we want to nurture it. And then comes a time when we say, okay, we can't do everything any longer. We must now bring in other resources to grow the business, right? And actually, I wrote 2 articles. One article was about the difficulty for the business owner to get out of their own way, right? So that the magic formula is you hire competent people and you empower them to do their job. And very importantly, you hold them accountable for their decisions, but you allow them to make decisions.
Yeah.
You constantly, the temptation will be to constantly micromanage them. No, you're not doing it like me. I would have done it differently. And it just makes the very competent people feel very insecure and unsure. And they're starting to doubt themselves, and then you don't get the value from what you hired from them. Right? So hire competent people, empower them, and let them make decisions, let them make their own mistakes, but hold them accountable for those mistakes or for those achievements, for that matter.
Yeah.
The other one is founders. I don't know many founders who are actually good at selling. But they need to sell out of necessity because otherwise they
have no choice.
So they like the idea of dropping sales like a hot potato when the time comes.
Yeah.
Right. And they go, I'll need to hire a sales rep. So it sounds plausible, right? That I need more sales. I need to hire a sales rep. Bingo, right? So the second article was really about what do you need to have in place before you hire your first sales rep to make that hire successful. Because a lot of business owners that I've met and that I've dealt with, they hire a rep saying they will come and sort everything out. They will bring a sales process. They will bring all the context, and they'll know how to sell, and I don't need to worry about it anymore. The reality is that the sales rep turns up, all excited about the new job, and they go, what's our value proposition? How do we differentiate ourselves from everybody else? And they go, well, you've got to tell me, right? You're the rep.
Yeah.
Okay. What's our sales process? How do we engage customers? How do we draw them into conversation? And how do we make a sale? What's the sales process? And they say, no. The owner might say, no, you're doing that. That's because that's what I've hired you for, right?
Yeah.
So what will happen is the rep will turn up. There's nothing ready for them to be successful. They will then bring a few of their network contacts, try to get some sales. They'll not hit their sales targets or their quota. They'll get disenchanted and they're going to look for greener pastures elsewhere. And you got to start as a business owner. You got to start from scratch again with the next guy. Right? So imagine if you had a rep coming into an organization where the value proposition is articulated and proven.
Yeah.
There is a sales process there that says, here's all your collateral, here's all your value propositions, here's your sales process step by step in terms of how you step through. Here's how we measure it. Here's all your tools and systems. Go. Right? When everything is ready for the rep, so that they can land in the job and hit the ground running from day one, they will be successful and your business will be successful. So please, you owe it to yourself to have everything ready for the first rep to land in your organization. Don't just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I made the same mistake, and I think a lot of business leaders make the same mistakes. We don't, one thing when you early on in a business, you think the sales people is going to bring a process to you. A process is something you got to build, and you got to give it to the salespeople. Hey, this is how I want you to run this sales funnel, right? So it's not something they're going to build it for you. So I think a lot of us, we make that mistake, because early on, we just don't understand how critical is the sales process to give it to your staff to run with it. Even in the IT side of things, I see a lot of business leaders, they think they hire people, the process is going to come with it. No, you as a company, you got to give the process to your people to run with it.
Or even worse, they bring a process that worked for them in the last job.
Yeah.
That may be related to what you're doing now, and it's not going to work. But it might take you 2, 3, 4 months to realize that. And you're spending a lot of money on something that's not going to work, and then you got to start from scratch.
So that's the hard work. There's a lot of work needs to put into building a sales process. Hey, this is what I want to say in opening. That's how I want to engage. I want to go step by step. But this is our whole funnel. How much how do business owner go about it? This is a lot of hard work. That's where we need somebody expert like you that we can engage and say, listen, can you help me build that sales process for my business so I can run with it? How much work is that, and how hard is that to build that funnel based on the businesses?
Okay, so the first thing I want to say, while there is a methodology that I use, and there's a structure to what I do with my clients, the key is that I do it with my clients. So we co-create their sales funnel, we co-create their sales process, right from the very top to the very bottom, and then back up again, because I talk about not just closing one sale, but also getting referral and repeat business from the same client, so that the funnel actually becomes a bow tie, and we open up more opportunities at the bottom again, right?
See.
So the key is that we go through the 10 steps in the buyer-focused sales funnel together. This is a 10-week program where we do one step a week, and we develop and build the step, and then I give the client time to implement it as well. Because as we talked about earlier, that everybody's good at planning, and the execution is sometimes not at the same quality level. Shall we say?
Yeah, we all fail in execution.
I'm being diplomatic here, right? but so you can have the best plan, but if you don't execute, then or if you execute badly, then it's not going to work. So I give my clients time to execute as well, and then I can help them with the execution. But there's a structured 10-week program that helps you to build out your bespoke sales process or sales funnel right from the top to the bottom. And then I give you time and support to implement it as well, so that you can actually realize the benefits that we've created together.
So we built the funnel. Let's say you put all the work in, everything sorted out, but then training the salespeople. Hey, we gotta say the same thing over and over. We gotta practice that stuff. So it's not just by reading materials not gonna do. We have to make sure that we practice and kind of ingrain in you. How does that work? And that requires a lot of discipline, a lot of structure. You have to repeatedly do that. Over time. By the time you get same message and everybody sound and sync the same way, how much does that work, and how does business owners go about it? How do they build that into the teams?
Okay, so I mentioned there's a lot of structure to the work that I do, because structure works. And that is, I like to work with the business owner, the founder, and maybe the sales leader on building the plan, building the sales process, the sales funnel. And the reason for that is that the more people get involved, the longer it takes, and the more disagreement happens.
Yeah.
So we can make much quicker decisions and better decisions if we only work in a group of 2 or 3. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. Then how do we bring that into the rest of the organization?
Yeah.
So that's the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we then run a workshop with all the salespeople and by the way, the marketing people as well, so that that they're not left in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
To imbue them with the new process, with the new way that we're selling, the new way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But I always say that if you only give them a workshop and then you pat them on the back and say good luck to you, it's not going to last.
It's forgotten in 2 days.
It goes in one ear, comes out the other, and they are back to what they were doing before, right? So if any sort of training or education is not followed up with on-the-job coaching,
Mm-hmm.
forgotten, and all the effort that you've gone to get to this point will be in vain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we do the work, we do the program together,
Mm-hmm.
then run an education and training kind of workshop with everybody, and then we offer individual one-on-one on-the-job practical coaching so that the new learnings can actually be embedded in and can be applied in the real world.
I see. Very interesting. So, as a business owner, if I'm building a sales team or I'm building all that, the work that I need to, have a new ways of selling and in the way I have to approach it, how much work is, I got to look at a different perspective. I need a different perspective because I'm going to be looking at things differently. How much work is on a personal development side as a business leader usually have to take on when they're looking at, everything's differently. They're trying to build a different process. They definitely need a little bit of maturity on their side, how to look at things and how to work with the people. How much work is on a personal development side for business leaders to take on in order to accomplish everything? Now, selling yourself is different skill set. Selling it through other people is totally different skill set, and how to manage people, right? So there's a lot of personal development has to go on. So how much work that is, and what do you see your client, what kind of journey they go on and on a personal development side?
Okay, so great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
The philosophy I like to follow is that I like to make sure that the sales leader
Mm-hmm.
is actually a sales leader and not just a manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I sometimes joke that particularly in the US and in North America, sales leaders often show up with a spreadsheet in one hand and a blowtorch in the other.
Yeah.
Right, and they think that the putting the sales reps under pressure will give them a good result, and it does work for a short term, but it frustrates enormously in the long term. So what I like to do is not outsource the sales leadership, the sales coaching, and the mentoring to a third party. What I like to do is empower the sales manager or the sales VP to actually be a leader and to show their people how to apply all the learnings. So I apply a kind of a like train the trainer, or coach the coacher, coach the coach philosophy. Because if I don't mind doing it, but I know from experience that it works better if the leader is actually a leader, rather than them saying, "Oh, look, you coach my people and I just supervise."
Yeah,
because they will the leader will not know what's being coached. They'll just see the numbers either go up or go down, and they start questioning everything, and in the end they're going to make everybody so uncomfortable with the new ways that people will revert back to the old ways. So if they're not being kept in the loop and they're not part of the solution and part of this future, it's not going to work as well.
See, very interesting. Yeah, no, definitely, business leaders, when I was learning sales, I came from background, I didn't know anything about sales, but, it was big undertaking for me, so many books I'd gone through, just simply learning from, not only sales side of things, but also how to manage people, how to coach people, how you need to help people to achieve, whatever they need to achieve instead of, you doing it by yourself, right? So it's different skill set I find that you need to learn as you grow a company.
And also get out of their way.
Definitely, yeah.
Don't do it for them. Don't take over. Don't micromanage them, and let them make their own mistakes and say it's okay. But next time you do better, right?
Yeah.
I always say it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them and don't repeat them.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you make the same mistake twice, that's dumb. Right?
Yeah.
That's
And be there. They can have a lot of questions as they go through it, right? So make sure you're there to answer all the questions. They're gonna have tons of questions. The client's telling me this. How do I handle that? How do I handle that? So you gotta be there to answer all those questions. Just make sure that they up and running smoothly, and then they can achieve get you the results.
Gurmeet, I just want to mention the C word as well. So
Mhm.
culture has a lot to play with it. Has a lot to do with it as well. If you have a culture in the organization that says it's okay for you to make a mistake, but don't make it twice.
Yeah.
That's much better than if you get punished for every mistake you make because you'll second guess yourself and you not stick your neck out and you not take any risks.
Definitely.
In sales or in business in general,
You got to take a risk.
you got to take a risk, otherwise you just stagnate and you go backwards eventually.
Yeah, very interesting. So let's talk about the sales itself, Peter. One of the area we all struggle at, one is a follow-up, another one is building that referral, a bucket for ourselves or a funnel for ourselves. Where are those two come from? Is that where you see a lot of a business leader? That's where they fail on a follow-up or building that referral bucket. This is where the work should be put on, but that's where we seldom pay attention to these two areas.
Okay, so trying to answer this diplomatically.
Because we challenge in that area too. And I talked to a couple of the business leaders that both, we all talk about that. Hey, how do we build that referral cycle? And also, hey, my people don't follow up enough. If they follow up more, I know I would have a lot more close ratio higher in a sales than I have right now. So those are the areas, my feedback from a lot of business leaders, that this is where we all struggle at.
So when I talk to sales leaders, they tell me they need two things. They need more leads and more deals closing, and that's it.
Okay.
Right? Which then translates into follow up. Right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Gurmeet, when a rep follows up on you, how does that make you feel?
Well, if something we had an engaging discussion, that there was some mutual, and then the person follow up, that shows me the person is interested in my business. That definitely, as long as it was engaging discussion, it was good. We were on the same page with a lot of items we talk about it. They can make a difference in my business. And if they're following up, that tells me that person's really want a business or they want to move to next step. So I'm okay with that. But if it's just a cold call follow up, I totally agree that I ignored.
Okay, so you've made two very interesting points there. One is that if they have achieved engagement with you,
yeah,
you don't mind the follow up because
I love the follow up. I love the follow up in that case. Yeah.
Whereas if they follow the old rule that you need 8 touches to get in to have somebody to get interested in you, then they just bug you and annoy you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So there's a difference in the follow up, right? Which is why I don't actually like the term follow up, because it sounds like with desperation, right?
Yeah.
So the thing I tell my clients is that opening is the new closing.
The way you engage people openly.
So if you engage with them right and you draw their interest and you get their attention and they want to know more, lean forward moment.
Yeah.
Then the closing will take care of itself, because you're guiding them through a conversation and through a process towards the transaction and then the follow up as well. The implementation side of the supply side of the equation, because I always say a sale does not stop with a transaction. You've got to deliver what you've sold.
Yeah.
So if you engage well, then the follow up becomes an agreed next step. Right. Whereas if you say no, I'm not interested, and then 2 days later I call you again, and then again and again and again, and you're going to go buzz off.
Yeah.
And you're going to make a mental note to yourself never to talk to that organization again because they bugged you. Right. There's actually risk in following up when it's not warranted, when it's not agreed, when it's not welcome.
I see. Yeah, no, definitely when you engage with somebody and you work it on a same, trying to solve a same problem, then you welcome the follow-up. You definitely want more information. What did I miss? Did you give me all the information? If you're sending me more, I'm looking forward to that. Maybe not the right time, maybe the right time is in a month from now. So then I'll definitely reach out to that, right? So
one thing I touched on earlier, and just want to elaborate on a little bit more, is that if you can present yourself as some sort of expert in your particular field, right? You've been in business for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatever. You have a right to a point of view. You have earned the right to have a point of view. And you can lead the conversation with that point of view, even if it's controversial to the person that you're talking to, or if they totally agree with what you're saying. They go, man, I always say that too. That's amazing. Or they go, no, that can't be right. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
But either way, you're starting a dialogue. You're having a conversation, and you're not talking about what it is that you're selling, about the organization, how many clients you already got, how big the size of the organization is, how many offices you have, how many staff you have, how amazing you are.
Yeah.
You're totally drawing them into a conversation that they find interesting as well, and they find valuable having with you.
Yeah, you're just talking about the concept of what they're getting, or what they should be getting, or some sort of concept that on a product or services that you're talking about, not just on a it's all about me.
Yeah, because as I said at the very start, if I focus on what I want to sell and how I want to sell it and how quickly I want to sell it, I'm focusing on my needs, not on your needs, right? And instinctively, I'm putting pressure on you to buy when you might not be ready to buy, when you might not even be in the market to buy. And I ruin the relationship before it's even started.
Yeah. Did technology change some of that stuff for the last couple of years, the way we engage with people, where we connect with the people? I know for the last couple of years where we just it's not in person-to-person meetings anymore. Now we are more of on a Zoom, the way you and I talking. And did that change a lot of our sales process, the way we engage people, right, Peter?
I always say that the tools are just tools. You can have your tools, but it's the craftsman that knows how to use them or not use them. Right? So if we use marketing automation to spam 10,000 people, the message is all about us and how great we are, that you're going to get one result.
Yeah.
If the message is specifically aimed at at you or at your type of persona, and draws you into a dialogue, then the tool will be great, right? So it's not the tool's fault. It's the craftsman's fault, right? If it doesn't work. Yes, technology has helped us to scale that outreach, but I'm sorry to say it hasn't made us smarter in how to use it.
Yeah.
We keep doing the same, I call it traditional way of outreach. We just amplified now with technology, and it's disenchanting all the buyers out there. I don't know whether you've heard of Andy Paul. He's an American podcaster and sales enablement guru.
Yeah.
And we in our podcast interview a couple of years ago now, we said that the risk is that even in a market the size of the US or North America, you run the risk, if everybody disenchants all the buyers, you run the risk of them retreating even further and being even harder to reach, which is exactly what we're experiencing now. Right? We're finding it harder on a daily basis to reach our ideal prospects, because they just go, I don't want to be spammed anymore. I don't want to be harassed. I don't want to be harangued, and I don't want to be ambushed. I want to be engaged. So why not do what they want? Why not engage them instead of ambushing?
So let's talk about engagement. Our attention spans are very, very small. With the social media and all, everybody's a very, very small attention span. You got to do tons of work to engage people now that you could do that before, right? We train ourselves on an Instagram, on a TikTok. 1 second, the content is gone. I mean, you got a very fine opportunity to engage somebody. If you look at a social media or any other digital media, I mean, you don't have more than a couple seconds.
Yeah. So a mate of mine who runs a call center outbound. He says a few years ago you had 3 minutes to make an impression. Over the years that's scaled back, and right now it's 8 seconds. So in a cold call environment, right? So if you don't solicit interest in the other party within 8 seconds, they're going to go, hang up or
Yeah.
get lost or go away in some way, shape, or form, right?
Wow.
So you do not have time to introduce yourself, your organization, your products, your services, or whatever you do. All you have time for is to intrigue them. Because if you intrigue them, they go, now I want to spend more time with you.
Let them decide. Let them decide if they want to spend time or not, instead of you forcing them to spend time with you.
So what I teach my clients is that one thing, like I call it a killer business introduction. The one thing that they say within 8 seconds that makes their prospects lean forward and say, okay, I'll give you some more time. Let me know. Tell me more.
Mm-hmm. Wow, very interesting. And does that 8 second also apply in a social media digital world as well, or just a phone call? How about digital?
Okay, same thing. So in email, for example, I'm realizing every day how important the headline is.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, experience tells us that a witty headline or something that's a bit quirky, unfortunately, doesn't get as much attention as one that's straight to the point.
Mm.
And it's simply because we scan the headline and we go, interesting, not interesting, interesting, not interesting. And if it looks a bit like fluffy or Instagrammy,
Yeah.
we go, no, that's not business related, so I'm not interested. And so interestingly, the email headline is super important. And then the first sentence in the text, in the body text, is super important as well.
Mm-hmm.
Similar in social media. If you post on LinkedIn, your headline and your first sentence are super important to draw them in.
Mm-hmm.
If you on Twitter, you get even less opportunity to make an impact because of the character limits. And so you've got to put something in that intrigues and not something that sells.
Mm-hmm. We changed our process a while ago. Instead of writing a long email, we made a company policy. If it's more than 3 sentences, don't write email, just put a video in it, right? So we got a lot of success on that. It's a lot more engaging that way. You can explain much better, and people want to spend 2-3 minutes on watching a video instead of reading that email. We do. Sorry, go ahead.
I wonder if it's a generational thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I find that people our age don't watch as many videos as the younger generations. Because they're so used to video every day, and they're on their device, they got their face in their devices all the time. I know kids do, but I think that there is horses for courses. So video is not a panacea; it's just a channel to market.
Mm-hmm.
Email, same thing. Social media, same thing. Even cold calling, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say you've got your buyers have a lot of choice in terms of which channel they want to consume.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be there where they are.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a while to find out where they are.
Yeah, and if you work across multiple industries, then it's all varies, right? Who you working with, who you dealing with, right? So in Canada, we definitely there's this email, and it doesn't work for a lot of business leaders. We have a very mature business. If you look at 93% numbers in Canada, I just was watching a study recently. Business owners are all above age 55, 60 in Canada, 93% of them. So if you're reaching that age group, definitely the video and the email is not going to do much. In person is much better, process to engage people instead of just sending something digitally to these people, right? So you got to see who you're trying to connect with other side.
Yeah. So the other thing I like to advocate to my clients is that they make their outreaches, regardless of channel, they make their outreaches very specific to a specific target audience. So if you're talking to SME business owners in Vancouver, then say something about business owners in Vancouver. Do you know what I mean? The more generic you make your outreach, the more vague it becomes for your target audience, and the less interesting. So being super targeted on your ideal buying persona and on your segmentation is actually very important. And this brings me back to the tool versus the craftsman.
Yeah.
We can use the tool to send out an email to 10,000 people, 100,000 people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the more people we send it out to, the more vague it becomes, because we're trying to put our arms around everyone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas if I just select business owners in Vancouver and address them specifically, it's going to be much more interesting to them.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the same technology much more effectively than making it really broad and spammy.
Very interesting. How about the meetings on a Zoom, Peter? Can you still get effectively? We're talking on a Zoom right now. So sales meeting on a Zoom instead of in a person. We used to have a, all this, the goal was, hey, let's meet in person so we can have a human connection and complete a lot of items instead of a Zoom. Can you still effectively get everything done in a Zoom that you could have done in person, or where you see that's going?
Okay, so obviously an in-person meeting is much more effective because you can see the nuances, you can hear the tonality of the voice, you can see the body language much clearer than on a screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to tell you that I've grown my US business
Mm-hmm.
during COVID because people were used to doing everything on Zoom, and
Mm-hmm.
they stopped caring that I was actually on a different continent, as long as I could still deliver value to them.
Wow.
Right?
Interesting.
And I actually find it much more convenient, by the way, because
yeah.
I don't have to jump in the car or jump onto a train and go to a cafe to meet somebody, and then without really knowing whether there's going to be business in it for me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of time that I'm not spending in transit by doing things online. And by the way, dealing with North Americans, I find it really refreshing how they either go, "Yep, I'm just let's do something," or "No, I'm not interested, go away."
Yeah.
Whereas people in Australia, they go, "Oh, let me think about it, and I'll come back next week." And "Oh, I haven't spoken to my partner, about it yet." And and they're actually trying to be nice by not telling you that they're actually not interested, which is really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the point I'm making is that I can get that out of a client very quickly in a Zoom call,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't feel the need to be super nice
Mm-hmm.
and super kind to me by dragging things out.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually, ironically, maybe a benefit.
Yeah. Yes is better. No is better. Just don't give me maybe.
Well, exactly. So I always say to my clients, qualifying an opportunity out is just as important as qualifying it in.
Yeah.
Because you can save yourself a lot of heartache, time, and effort.
Mm-hmm. And you can take a lot of meetings. I don't know, but I've been on a, it's the end of the day. I've been on 11 or 12 meetings today. So you can do those meetings with the Zoom. But if you were driving to each business to have those meetings, I won't be able to do more than 3-4 meetings. In a day. Now I can do about 11, 12 meetings a day. Just because I'm not leaving my house.
And I actually think the buyers appreciate that too, because they don't have to do the same thing. Like they don't have to turn up to a cafe somewhere or make time for you to visit them at their office or come to you at your office, right? They can just make quicker decisions as well, and they actually benefit from that productivity increase.
Yeah, and just by as you mentioned, just sitting just in your office, you can meet people for different continent, different time zones, different environments. It's how much work you can do. Eventually, you want to meet them in a person, I guess, right? But at least you can sort out if it's gonna really be beneficial engagement for both parties, right? So you can at least sort out the business interests or that if it's the same goals or both parties have, you can sort that stuff out, and if it works out, then you can meet in person eventually.
Yeah, and I've had this weird experience that there's some people I only know online. I've never met them in person, yet it feels to me like I've known them for years.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Very
and
interesting.
so I think the barriers are disappearing. I think we may be over exaggerating that doing things remotely is a problem or is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just horses for courses, frankly.
Interesting. So let's talk about your journey, Peter. How you got so good in the sales? How you got involved with sales? If you talk about your background, your journey, how did you get so interested in sales and marketing and all this area?
Yeah, see all these grays?
Yeah. So it's been a long time.
I've earned my stripes. So I spent 20 odd years in the corporate world, working for companies like Sony, Canon, 3M, even a little stint at Dell. Both on the marketing side and on the sales side.
Okay.
Which is why I was going to pull out my book, but I haven't got it in front of me yet. Okay. Which is why I wrote a book about sales, marketing, and customer alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Because I found a lot of those multinationals are so obsessed with what they're selling that they forget about the customer almost.
Mm-hmm.
That was almost an afterthought.
I see.
Sorry, all multinationals, but it's there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
And then I had enough of all the politics and the backstabbing and the rat race and that you had to ask 15 people for permission before you're able to do anything. The constant challenges of quotas, budgets, all that nasty stuff. And I really wanted to step out and do something myself. And so in 2011, I founded Peter Strohkorb Advisory.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to take the learnings that I had made at the multinationals and say, let's focus our selling on the buyer, not on what we're selling, not on our products or our services.
Mm-hmm.
So the example that I use is that we need to sell the benefits to the client, and maybe even go one step further and sell the benefits of the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So I know this sounds pretty esoteric right now, but I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There is one of my clients here in Australia. They run a business that sells some cleaning chemicals to schools and governments and councils and municipalities and that sort of thing. And I asked, the CEO came to me and he said, look, it's getting harder and harder to sell our products. Can you help us? And I said, okay, how are you selling right now? And he said they literally go from school to school or from municipality to municipality. They knock on their door and they bring out their bag of goodies and they say, look, here's our cleaning products. And their top selling product is a graffiti remover chemical.
Okay.
So I said, how are you selling it? And they say, well, we talk about the efficacy of the product and how well it cleans and how it saves time and how it does a great job cleaning graffiti.
Okay.
So that's a benefit. But then I got them to think about what's the benefit of the benefit. So let's take a school, right? That's an example. So a school where all the walls are full of graffiti gives the parents a bad impression of the school, right?
Yep.
They think that the school's been taken over by a gang and they don't want to send their kid there. Right? Whereas if you remove the graffiti, you're not just selling the graffiti remover, you're selling a clean school and a cleaner image that will attract more parents to put their kids into that school, which then attracts better staff to the school, which creates a better curriculum to the school, which creates better outcomes for the kids to the school, which makes the parents happy again, so they will keep their kids going to that school. So you're not actually selling, when you're selling that graffiti remover, you're not actually selling the removal of graffiti. You're selling a cleaner image of that school that will that will make the school more successful. But that's selling the benefits of the benefits. But it requires that you think inside your customer's head, and not just think about how you're selling, what you're selling, and how you're selling it.
Very interesting. Definitely, if you take a couple steps, further, definitely that's where it comes down. Very interesting. Great concept. Definitely, if you approach it that way, definitely schools want to, help, we take the graffiti remover and get the, fix that image so they can grow again, right? So.
Yeah, and also I go one step further again, and I say it's super important that you have a business case for your client to buy from you, right? Because they need to justify it internally, the budgets, boss, hierarchy, whatever. Yeah. But if you can give them a personal reason to buy from you as well, it becomes a no-brainer that they will buy from you. So in the case of the school, the janitor or the procurement person that bought the graffiti remover can then claim, I bought this and this is the outcome that my purchase achieved for you, and therefore they might get a pat on the back, they might get a bonus, they might get a promotion, But so if you can give your client a personal reason to buy from you as well as a business reason to buy from you, selling becomes much easier.
Very interesting. Yeah, definitely got me thinking a couple of things. Definitely, you have to get into the, back to your point that you have to get into your clients, customers' head and figure out what's important to them. Very interesting.
And you know, sorry, I'll step off the soapbox in a minute, but this is a bit of a hobby horse of mine. That this idea of having a quota by the end of the month or by the end of the quarter will force you to think internally and not externally. It'll make you think about how far away you are from reaching that quota, and you'll get a bit desperate. And when you get a bit desperate, you like to just push a bit harder.
Yeah.
And pushing will actually drive your client away instead of attracting them. So I'm not a big fan of measuring sales performance purely on revenue by an arbitrary date. I like to include a metric of customer experience and customer satisfaction as well. Because even if I don't sell you my product this month, if I do the right thing for you, you might buy from me next month.
Again.
Whereas if I push and harass and pressure you to buy from me on the 29th of the month, you might buy from me once, but you might not come back again.
Yeah. So it's building a relationship, nurturing people, and giving them right information and leaving them alone, that, you know, one day they will come back.
I even had a client who, pardon me, I'm just making a sip of coffee.
Yeah.
I even had a client who qualified themselves out of a deal. They said, look, we're not a right fit for these reasons. But that prospect at the time was so impressed with their honesty that they gave them another chance on another opportunity down the track, because they had such a good experience saying that these guys tried to do the right thing by us. They didn't try to just jam their thing down our throat. They actually said, look, we can't help you as well as some other people, so therefore we're going to exclude ourselves from this. But they left such a great impression that they were asked again to bid for another deal.
Very interesting. You build a relationship, you know, and it comes through that, you know, that your engagement with the client, right? Your honesty, you're being upfront, you know, that reflects from your sales process when you're dealing with the people. And these people you're dealing with, decision makers, you know, they know that. They can see through that very quickly.
Well, they can see the difference between whether you want to sell them something or whether you want to help them.
Yeah. Very interesting. So yeah, listen, I learned so much from our discussion. I definitely encourage all business leaders to, you know, watch this episode and reach out to you for a quick discussion. You know, I learned so much. I'm sure everybody who reaches out, they're going to learn so much from you. Where can they find your books, Peter, and how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
Okay, so books, very simple. Either go to peterstrohkorb.com/books, or type in my name, Peter Strohkorb, on Amazon.
Okay.
and you'll find the book there. But I think something that might be very useful for your audience is, if they're interested in the buyer-focused sales funnel or the buyer-focused sales process, and they want to compare what their current process looks like to this buyer-focused model, they can actually assess that for themselves for free in about 5 minutes by themselves on peterstrohkorb.com as well.
So I'm going to include a link actually below the video. They can click a button, they can do that. I'm going to do that for myself as well. I'll definitely encourage people to go take assessment. 5 minutes is not that, you know, it's not a big commitment on your time. You know, take a look and you will learn something.
And the idea is that even if you decide not to do any business with me, it will hopefully give you a bit of inspiration and maybe some clarity on how you can do better, and just get you to think a bit about how you're selling currently versus how your buyers want to buy currently.
Very interesting. And there's a lot of good articles on your website as well. I just looked at a blog. There's a lot of great articles. So, you know, check out those articles as well. You know, you'll get a different perspective. I mean, sales is not about, sometimes you need a different perspective. And, you know, as you know, daily basis as business owners, you know, I'm guilty of that as well. We're busy running a business, you know, we're trying to grow our companies. We got to take care of service side of business as well. We got to take a finance side of it. But so there's a lot of blind spots. That's why we need, you know, experts like you, highlighting those blind spots and get extra help and then grow a company. Trying to do by yourself, you're never going to achieve what you could achieve with somebody else's help out there, right?
Correct. And if I may just plug another service of mine, I actually run, for that very reason, an online sales leaders roundtable. And I run one in the Americas time zone and one in the Asia Pacific time zone. It's a once a month for 1 hour, where sales leaders come together in a non-competitive environment to talk about the challenges that they all have, discover how other people perhaps in other industries are solving the same problems, and to connect with the industry, because they realize one piece of feedback I always get from the roundtables is that, man, I'm so glad I've discovered I'm not the only one with these problems.
Wow. Wow.
So they don't feel so alone and so isolated in their job, because they realize other people that are in their situation also have the same issues, and discuss those issues. And we always talk about common challenges to selling, like from the top of the sales funnel engagement to the middle of the sales funnel to, how long should my sales cycle be, and am I an outlier or am I a leader in this space? And they discover things about themselves and about other people in 1 hour once a month that they find really valuable. So it's called the Sales Leaders Roundtable, and it's on the website as well.
Okay, I'll include the link for that as well. But hey, if somebody already solved the problem, why do we have to reinvent the wheel? It's just learn from somebody else's problems. They already solved it. Run with it. Grow your companies. Why you have to reinvent every single solution for every single problem yourself, where somebody already done it? Just learn from it and just move on from there, right? So.
Yeah. So the other feedback I get is that they go, man, I've got a ton of notes that I've just taken. I'm going to take them back to my team to implement. So it's kind of a free learning session as well.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. No, and more importantly, we all have a blind spot, as I mentioned. Definitely we have somebody to look into, and we need somebody to guide us sometime, right? Hey, you're not looking the right way. Maybe go this way. You're not going to, you're not executing the right way. Let me help you to do that. So you need that help. I mean, that's how you scale company. That's how you move much faster. Otherwise, step-by-step approach, you trying to reinvent your own process. I mean, take you years and years by the time you get somewhere.
That's right. And also even top athletes have coaches.
You got it.
Even people at the top of their game still have coaches that help them to see things straight, or to bounce ideas off, to be a sounding board, and to talk things through. So every leader needs a coach or a mentor as well.
Definitely. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much for time, Peter. I learned so much. Hope our business leader are watching, they will learn so much from our discussion as well. And reach out to you for a chat, and who knows where the discussion can take them.
Yeah, look, I always welcome new people talking to me and reaching out and having a chat about their business. And Gurmeet, it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Peter.
All the best.
Oh.